Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to go over the VCS system and cover a lot of the ins and outs, do's and don'ts, the mistakes that I made in previous messing with the VCS. You can see that the button is not currently showing up in here. In order for you to be able to see that, because it is off by default, you go into the config under the generic tab, scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see the unhide VCS. So I can just set that to true, and now when I go out and back in again, I have the schematic VCS available. And to show you what this is, basically it is an iterative in-place series of schematics. There are currently, you can see there's version 1 of 3. I'll go ahead and load this, and the point of origin and the coordinates are anchored to the last loaded or created location, no matter what world you're in. If you are in this world, you go into a new world and you open up that VCS and you load that project, it's going to be at those coordinates no matter where you are in the world. So these are at 1156, 112, negative 191. If you go into a new world and you're at 00, these are still going to load at 1156, 112, negative 191, and you'll have to click move to player. So I can do that now, and you'll see that that actually jumped to my current location. This purple block is the actual anchor or point of origin, and you can see it is a schematic. I'll turn on overlay translucency. You can see that I like to view it in this manner here, and I've set up hotkeys. I'll go ahead and show those real quick. So hotkey, go in here, and I believe we'll just type next. So schematic version cycle next, and then there's cycle previous, I believe, and I just set it to the left and right arrow keys, and that'll allow me to arrow through each version of the schematics that were created. These are independent different house builds, basically. Very tiny one there, the first one, and then the last one a little more mid-size. I was able to do this based off of these build right here in their current location. I have schematics of these, I pasted them in, and then I created a VCS with those 3 builds in it, and they're all anchored off of that one location right there. And that would be the ideal way to have it and load it. But first, let's go over the improper way to go ahead and do this, because ideally what the VCS is for is if you've got a long-standing project, say you're building a castle and you've got a huge wall with crenellations all the way around the top of it. You don't like the crenellations and you want to make a change. Well, you would want to first go ahead and save a version of that, and then you can make your edits and changes, and then you can save a new version of that, and you can have the 2 very different builds with different aspects, and you can load them independently. Like I can go in here into the VCS and I can place to world, click OK, and that's going to scan the area, look for any blocks, delete them out of the way first, and then paste this into the world itself. And now this is a actual solid build, and I can go into it and walk around, that kind of thing. Now I have carpet mod enabled with the creative no clipping, so I can actually jump up and fly and move through those blocks. And I can also go ahead and delete that area. So anything in that selection box is going to go ahead and I'm just going to delete it. And it says the area is cleared. You can still see it, but basically, yes, it is translucent and there is nothing here. I'll go ahead and and that is the premise behind that. That is what is it? Yeah, it's just a selection box from the simple mode. There are things you can and cannot do while the VCS is open. You can see in the lower left corner that it says schematic VCS mode. I can load other schematics from throughout the catalog that I currently have, and those are completely separate and independent of the actual. So I'm going to just go ahead and load this one here, and you can see that there are the blocks for that. I don't know what that is and why I created it. Anyway, I cannot paste these into the world. It is separate from the VCS. So if I went to paste again, it would just paste that last build that is currently loaded. Or if I cycle through it and paste, like I can switch this to paste to world, and I can hit the execute key. And what it is going to do is actually paste this smaller build in, because the VCS is basically the predominant feature right now, and none of this is involved with that. I would have to first close the VCS and then paste this in. And that is the process that I used to create a version system of a storage hall that I had done. So let me close this current project, and I'll go in here to my projects, storage hall, and I'm going to load this in. And it's going to load at the very last coordinates at the 101, 57, 169, when I last loaded it in a world. And all the way over there is the box, and if the hotkeys that I set up to cycle through, left and right arrow, I can cycle through, and you can see the shape change of each different selection box area, and they're all anchored on the northwest lowest corner of the let me zoom in here. Can we see it? Yeah, that purple box right there is the anchor point, and they're all stemming off of that. I can go into the VCS and move this to the player, and that will put that right here. And you can see one of the builds, the last one I was on in iteration, and I can just basically rapidly tab through these, and ooh, seriously, what the heck was that? I didn't even move the mouse. Anyway, and I did this to consolidate all of my builds and put them into a singular location so that I could cycle through them and have a look and see what they are. Some of them are quite large. Anyway, let's go into what you should not do. And all of these names here, I basically gave them independent on every version created. So whenever you go to save version, it's going to give you this box here. And I gave it a unique name with a descriptive information about it. So work in progress, storage 0001, blah, blah, blah. You know, you get the idea. I'm going to close that project. And I still have that loaded. Let's go ahead and unload that schematic. Nope, not load, unload. Here we go. All right, say you want to create a version control system of previous builds that you have in the world. What we're going to do now is, I'm going to drop down here so I'm a little more on the level. There we go. I'm going to version control system. Go in here, go into projects. I'm going to create a folder, just give it a name. And this is going to be all wrong. The entirely wrong way to do it. So wrong. Okay. And what that is going to do is create a point of origin right here in this purple box. And say I want to go over here, and I'm still currently on paste into the world. So I'm going to have to go into the menu to switch this. Go in here, and I'll just mouse over and scroll the mouse wheel. And now I'm on area selection. Okay. So let's create a selection there. I'll hit the grow key, and it's going to go until it hits air on all sides and quit expanding. And now I'm going to use a grow modifier hotkey. You just hold this down, and then you can use the mouse wheel and scroll it, and you can shrink or grow the actual selection box area. I'm going to shrink it just one beyond so that I'm not grabbing that fascia. And then I'm going to go ahead and go into the editor. Doesn't matter about the subregion box name. I don't even know if this has any information that you can visibly see anywhere in the world or in the Litematica. And I'm just going to create a schematic, and there you have it. And it is currently anchored to that purple box right there. All right, say you're going around to different worlds and you're grabbing all of your builds. Let's come over here, and I'm going to grab this series of floors now. So what I want to do is just click a point there, and then I will use the grow modifier and expand this out until it grabs all of the blocks. Then we'll go ahead and we're going to, I'll just save it from within here now. We're wrong. And it's automatically going to add an integer and change the numbered value So version ver1, ver2, blah, blah, blah. You get the idea. I can go around and grab more and more builds, and say I'm doing this in different worlds, and I'm opening up the version control system for this one right here and adding a build to it. Well, here's where this is going to get really hinky and become an issue. Every time you go into a new world, and I'll do that now, I'll even close this one first. So close that, save and quit. We'll go into a different world now. And I believe I should have a VCS open in here. I do, so let's pretend like there wasn't one open. Go in here to the projects, go into this. I'm gonna load this project. And you can see that bounding box all the way over there. That is because that's where it was in the previous world. So I can go into the VCS, I can move this to me. And it's only gonna move the anchor point to my feet, and that is it. And you can see that there's the one build. Turn off the overlay, turn off the transparency, and it looks a little more solid, easier to look at for me anyway. And then I can use my hotkeys, and I can view each one. And unfortunately, the coordinates that they were created at is static. No matter what world you move it to, you can see if I hit the arrow key to go to the next iteration, it's going over there. So that is absolutely the wrong way that you want to do this, especially if you're going to different worlds to grab previous builds that you have to consolidate them into a project system so that you can step through all of your builds. And one way that you can do this that is actually quite tedious, let me go ahead and close this out, and I'm gonna open up this one here, load project, move to player so that it's already at our feet. That purple block there is the anchor point. And what I did was I wanted to take all of my redstone storage, automated storage designs, and put them in one project set. And I had to do this in a very time-consuming and tedious manner. I created my version control system, then I closed it out. I loaded in a schematic and pasted it into the world, and then selected it, or reopened the version control system, made a selection around the build, saved the version, closed the version control system, delete that schematic, paste in a new schematic, wash, rinse, repeat. And I did that 82 times. It took me, I don't know, 3 or 4 days or more at least. But having done so, now I can actually use the hotkeys that I set for left and right to cycle through the versions, and I can see each version of the designs that I went through. There is a much simpler way to add former builds into a version control system, and we'll do that in the previous world. So I'm going to go ahead and close this VCS here. I'm going to save and quit out of this, and we'll go back into the former world here. And this is going to be a lot simpler and easier to deal with. We'll come over here to these 3 storage designs. The major differences between the 3 of them is the redstone down below is extended further and further away, trying to negate noise issue. You can see I have a bounding box, or a box right here that's a point of origin box. I'm going to stand right here. I'm going to create a new version control system. Every time I hit up, it always goes back to the root directory. So go into projects, then I'm going to go into, I'll just create a new folder, give it a name. There we go. Create a project, and just call this correct. It's not technically the correct way, but you'll get the idea. All right, now that I've got that created, it created a purple anchored point of origin, and no matter what, that is always going to be the point of origin. So now I can start making selection. I'll go ahead and select that. I'll hit the grow hotkey, and that's going to create a selection around the entire build. And I can go ahead and do a point of origin, but with this, it's kind of misnumbered because my anchor point of origin is going to override that, because they're going to be resting in basically the exact same location. And you saw the coordinates change when I clicked move to player. Anytime you create a point of origin in a world where you've already been working with Litematica and you created a schematic and you made a point of origin for that schematic, that is going to maintain until you move it to your current location. So anytime you're doing a new schematic in the world where you've already worked with Litematica and created schematics, you want to make sure you pay attention to that and move it to your, or otherwise you're going to have a point of origin possibly 400 or 500 blocks away. And then when you load your schematic, and where's my schematic at? Because you can't see it. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to save a version, and I'm not even going to worry about changing it. I'm just going to just add a numbered variation to it. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and fly over here to the very next build. I'm going to get in the same location as I was in that one, and I'm going to go into the VCS, and I'm going to click Move to Player. And what this is going to do is going to move the anchor location and the selection box that was selected around that one, and move the majority of that selection and basically the schematic itself over there. So now I'm going to hit the expand key or grow, and it's going to grab everything there. And there's a point of origin, doesn't really matter, but I'm going to go ahead and set it anyway. So I'll go in here, there. If I click move, it's not going to change. I'm going to turn this off and back on again, and then click move to player, and then you'll see the numbers change. That's due to the VCS system itself. It doesn't really matter. You can set a subregion box name. Like I said, it doesn't have any information that changes anywhere that I have found. So we'll go ahead and save version. I'm not going to bother changing anything there, and it's just going to add another numbered iteration. And then we can go and grab the very last build over here with the exact same process. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Move to player. We're going to expand it to make sure we grab everything. And go into area editor, turn this off, back on again, to save version. Okay. So if you're going around to different worlds and you're using the same version, project version system, you want to make sure that you always move to your current location so that your selection box will be at least in vicinity of the previous one. And now I could come out here, I don't even need to close it. I can click move to player, and you can see that the schematic that it just created off of that last build is right there. It's the one with the redstone extended further away. And now I can arrow through each version and you can see the changes that were made. Basically, that is it in a nutshell. Like I said, you can load other schematics, but you can't paste them in until you close the VCS. Other functionality does work. You can switch into edit mode and you can edit the schematic itself. I can actually go over here and I can take and middle click on that, and I can hold down a hotkey, and okay, it's telling me I can't do that. Current not selected. Wonder why it's not selected. Doesn't make I don't know why it wasn't selected, but anyway, so I can hold down the hotkey. I just switched that, and then I can click and it will change all of that. And just like editing any other standard schematic, these changes will not stay. They're not permanent. If I leave and come back, or I close and reload, and I'll just go ahead and we'll close the current thing, and then I'll go ahead and click on it and reload it, and it's going to be back to its original block palette. So in order to have any edits saved, you actually have to save the file. For the VCS, you have to save a new version. It won't save over top of. There's no way to do so. The version control system, essentially, like I described, is you're building a castle. You've got a wall with crenellations around it. You don't like the crenellations. You want to tear them out. First, you would want to go ahead, just in case, you save a version of it, and then go ahead and make your changes. And then if you like it, you can save a new version of it, and then you can cycle through and decide which one you want to use or not. I think it's a good idea, especially for redstone, because I have a lot of redstone design changes throughout the history of my working on automated storage systems. And this is the very last build I ever worked on. This final design, I think, the most compact. I decided, to heck with the noise levels. I'll just use resource packs to adjust the volume levels of certain things here and there, so I don't have to worry about ticking noises from dispensers, blah, blah, blah. I think that pretty much covers everything. Is there anything else? The area selection browser, you can switch this to the normal mode and create a multiple subregion selection as a single version within your version control system. That is a possibility. It's similar to that. You just new subregion, give it a name, and there you go. And so I have a point of origin, well, box right there. I can make it bigger, and now that is the latest selection there. I can go into edit mode here, so I can switch this, and I was already in edit mode. Now I can go in here and I can try to place some blocks. No, it won't let me place any blocks because there's nothing to place a block against. But anyway, say if there were blocks in here like this, I'll just set block, current location, glass. There we go. And now that is a current thing. Come over here a little bit. And now we'll do this and this and this for all the wrong reasons. Now I can go in here, new subregion, give it a name. There you go. And now I'm going to switch this to area selection. So there you go. And now that's a new subregion selection. And now that that is actually part of the schematic version, all I would need to do is go in here, save version. There you go. Of course, now that is offset from the rest of it, unfortunately. So if I click on move to player, it's going to move the anchor point there, and you can see that is actually further away. And if I arrow back, you can see that I'm currently in the middle of the builds at the anchor location, and I'm cycling through each one. Just that last one was in the wrong location, but you kind of get the idea. That should pretty much cover everything you would need to know about the VCS system. I do thank you for watching this long. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and you have a good day.